Welcome to The Kingstonian, a podcast that profiles individuals who are passionate about what they do for a living, about what organization they belong to, or simply passionate about the community they are a part of. Hello there and welcome. My name is Dave Cunningham. This morning we have a gentleman with us who has a passion for flying. His name is Zach Elliott. Welcome, Zach.
Hey Dave, thanks a lot.
You started flying when you were 13, and you were flying gliders, as I recall reading about you.
The first flight that I ever did was in a glider aircraft. So they tow you up in an airplane without an engine, and then you release and you kind of fly around for as long as you can stay up.
And then you come down.
Yep.
Safely.
Exactly.
You've gone from flying gliders to running your own business over the course of 10 years, correct?
Yep.
Roughly? So what we're going to do is talk about the early years. We have some songs we're going to play during the course of the program. We're going to talk about the business, and we're going to talk about the big stumbling block that happened to you when you were 18 that sort of put a bit of a kibosh on certain aspects of what you wanted to do with flying, but you've changed directions a little bit, but now you have your own business. So let's go back to talking about flying initially. What was it that prompted you to get into flying in the first place?
Well, my grandfather was an aviation engineer, and part of his job, they had a program at Canada Air that taught their employees how to become glider pilots. So he owned an aircraft through with a couple of buddies at Hawkesbury Airport, and he took me out there one day and bought me a discovery flight, so a flight where you go up with a guy and he kind of gives you the controls of the airplane, shows you the basics. So I did that, and after he gave me control and I was flying around for 10-20 minutes, I was pretty much hooked.
Now, I've never been in a glider, so I have no sense as to what that's like, but as you described it earlier, it's basically you take off being towed by another plane and you get up to a certain height, and then the other plane releases you, or you release yourself and you're flying up there or gliding without an engine. Give me a sense of the sensation of doing that.
It's about as close as you could get to being pretty much a bird. So as soon as you release the hook from the tow airplane, you're flying around, and you can stay up there all day just by circling around in the thermals, the hot air rising off pavement and other surfaces, just like you see kind of hawks circling around without flapping their wings. It's really quiet. It's really enjoyable, and it's really basics of flying, like right down to the Wright brothers kind of thing.
When you are up there in a glider, and I guess it would depend upon those thermals, like how long would you be able to stay up before you'd have to come down?
Well, it depends on the day, but depending on the skill of the pilot, they can stay up there pretty much all day just by circling around in updrafts. Yeah.
So you got your license to fly gliders, and then you moved on to planes with engines.
No, I didn't actually get my glider license. I just did the flight that got me started and got me interested. After that, I went to the flight schools here in Kingston and got my recreational license. So I started right on the single-engine Cessna aircraft.
Now, how old do you have to be able to get a license to fly a plane?
To actually get your full license, you have to be at least 16 for recreational, so you can take passengers. However, you can be 14 years old and you can be flying solo. You have an instructor on the ground that has told you what you're going to go and do with that flight. So you're kind of supervised. They're not in the aircraft with you, but you're still flying around by yourself, but you can do that at 14.
So that'd be a lot of fun.
Yep, that was a little stressful for my parents, I think, but it was fun for me.
Now, the plan was for you to become a commercial pilot. That was the eventual goal, correct?
Yep, so that was the dream. I was going to probably either become a commercial pilot and go up north, do some bush flying, and kind of build some hours towards making it maybe into the airlines.
Now, do you have to have, I think that's a measure of experience in a plane, is how many hours you've been in a plane. That's how they measure your experience level, correct?
Yep, for sure. Most airlines, or even small charter airlines, won't take you in until you have about 2,000 hours of flight time. So,
how long would you need to accumulate that number of hours?
It would take you probably about 5 years. It depends on what job you're doing or how much flying you're doing. I mean, there's lots of options to build your hours, like flying up north. If you're going every day for 6 hours, it doesn't take very long, but if you're doing something like flight instruction, you might only be doing 1 or 2 hours, every other day or so of flying. So it kind of depends.
Now, when you were 18, you were in a car accident.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Well, I crashed my car. It was my own fault, but I ended up breaking my T11 spinal, or got a complete spinal cord injury. So I'm paralyzed from the belly button down, and kind of threw a wrench in my hopes and dreams there for the commercial pilot situation. But I did some research, and with a lot of help from family and friends, I found some information on a flight school out in Vancouver that had an airplane adapted with hand controls for the rudder pedals. And
so I gather that's not very common, is the ability to learn to fly a plane with hand controls.
Not really. There's only a few schools around North America that do that. So it took a little while to find. I had a few friends, like I met a bunch of guys in wheelchairs that kind of helped me through recovering. One of them was previously a pilot, and he flew as well, his Cherokee with hand controls.
So tell us about the school out in BC that you went to.
So it was your typical ultralight school. It was out in a small grass strip. It was really short. And Ben Goodridge was the paraplegic out there that had his plane adapted with hand controls. So it's the exact same plane. I came home and bought the exact same plane that he had, the Icarus C-42. And it's already certified from the manufacturer with a rudder hand control. So instead of using my feet, I just use a push and pull kind of stick.
How difficult was it to adapt from flying the way you were flying before the accident to flying with just hand controls?
The first couple hours of flying, it was about a year and a half that it took me to get everything organized to go out there. So it took a long time. So between the not flying for a year and a half and then learning on the hand controls, and then the added challenge of landing on an 800-foot grass strip rather than we have 5,000 feet of runway here at Kingston. It took me about 5 hours before they let me go solo out there.
Yeah, I never thought about the business of a shorter runway that you have to work with at a private school like that one. So that is much more difficult to land on such a shorter runway.
It took a little bit more skill than it would here at Kingston, for sure.
So you come home from the school and you're all fired up about getting your own plane.
Yep.
So I read somewhere that you went to Florida to get the plane?
I drove down to Florida and I picked up the aircraft in Lakeland, Florida, and flew it home with the dealership guy that was there as well. He helped me out loading my chair in and out of the baggage compartment. And it took 12 hours total to get home from Florida. How
many times would you have to land and
I think we stopped 4 times. We would have got away with 3, but we had to stop in Watertown for customs.
Okay. All right. We're speaking with Zach Elliott, who has a passion for flying, and right now we are talking about him bringing his newly purchased plane back from Florida to Canada. How big a deal is it for you to buy a plane in the States and bring it back to Canada?
Well, it was a lot harder than I was expecting it to be. There's a lot of paperwork to do. It took me about probably 6 months to get everything organized and get the aircraft, the taxes paid and everything through customs to bring it over.
What was
it was a lot of fun, that's for sure. I've never flown that far in my life. It's all the way from Florida to Kingston is the flight I've ever done. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you get to see the entire landscape of the
U.S. Eastern Seaboard. Yeah.
Exactly. It was great. There's no better way to see it.
How long would the flight take if you were flying directly? It's about 3 hours without landing and taking off again?
Well, it would probably be, I'd say, 10 to 11 hours. We didn't spend a whole lot of time on the ground. We just got gas and jumped in and went right away again.
Yeah, an ultralight is not going to fly as fast as a commercial airplane.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I was going to ask you before we leave the business of buying the plane, what was the exchange rate like when you bought the plane?
Back then, it was before it got really bad, so it was about 80 cents or 90 cents, I think.
So it wasn't as bad as it is now?
No, it was...
From our perspective?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, I think when people hear you talk about ultralights, they are thinking about those open vehicles that are fly in the air that look like hot rods, and the motor being a lawnmower engine sort of thing. I think that's a mental image a lot of people would have of an ultralight. Can you expand upon what an ultralight looks like these days?
Yeah, that's the stigma behind ultralight. The word ultralight is that kite with the lawnmower engine kind of style. Today, though, with the advances in technology, we have carbon materials, and materials are getting much lighter. Designs are getting better. Our aircraft is exactly like your typical Cessna aircraft. So it's 2 seats. It flies just as fast as you would fly in any plane that you would pretty much fly with a private license or a certified aircraft, we would say. It's a lot nicer because it burns a lot less fuel than the old 1970 Cessnas. It also takes a lot less maintenance because it's not 40 years old.
Yeah. Now, the legal definition that separates the two kinds of aircraft, it's a weight and speed thing, right?
Yeah, so the aircraft has to be under 1,200 pounds, fully loaded with fuel and passengers, and it has to stall at a speed less than 39 knots. So, yeah.
So, if you have a passion for a hobby like flying, and we were talking about this before we started recording this morning, the business of being passionate about a particular hobby and wanting to have the tools to enjoy that hobby without having to rent it all the time. So that's one of the advantages to getting your own plane, is that you don't have to rent someone else's to get up there and fly. You have your own.
Yeah, exactly. The whole basis of why I started the company in the first place was I pretty much just wanted to own an airplane and have it kind of pay for itself. And then as things progressed, I kind of started making it more of a career thing, looking to make some profits in the business as well.
So let's talk about the business. So you come back from Florida and you have a plane that you've just purchased, and you wanted to start to share that passion with other people.
Oh, exactly.
So you rent out the plane and you also give lessons. Let's talk about that.
Yep. Our main business is flight training. So we get people their ultralight permit, where when they're done that, they can fly any ultralight, whether it's a basic, your typical kite with a lawnmower engine, or an advanced ultralight like ours, fully enclosed with heat. You can fly it in the wintertime. We also provide advanced training, so if you want to take passengers, we do passenger ratings. We also do flight instructor ratings if people want to get their instructor rating. The other side of the business is we kind of do discovery flights for people that have never really been flying before or want to try something new and adventurous. We take them up for a discovery flight, let them try their hand on the controls, just like back when I was 13 and the guy let me fly. It's kind of an incentive to get people up in the air, see the new ultralight kind of world, and see if it's something that they might want to do, as well as almost a sightseeing or a fun flight.
Right.
We also rent the aircraft out, which not a whole lot of ultralight schools around Canada rent out their ultralight once training is finished. So it allows for people also, they don't have to invest a ton of money in buying a new aircraft. They can just rent ours whenever they like to go.
So I would gather that when you came back, you had to get your instructor's license to be able to teach people, correct? There's more education involved?
Yeah. When I went out west, that's what I was doing out there. Actually, I wasn't just learning how to fly with hand controls. I was getting my instructor rating for the ultralight license.
Okay. What's been the response like to opening up the school? Because it's been open for what, 2 years?
2 years operating now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been really good, actually. It's we got about 20 to 30 students right now, somewhere in there, and lots of guys that have finished their training and are renting our aircraft. When I first kind of sat down and did the business plan, I was expecting to do about 200 hours of flight time in the first year, and we ended up doing about 400 hours actually. So we're well ahead of our targets for the flight school. we're actually expanding into a newer, larger office right now. And we're also starting to build ultralight airplanes, basic ultralights.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So are you doing this all by yourself, or do you have a staff, or how does that work?
No, I have another instructor that works with me that's been kind of my right-hand man for the past year and a half or so, Paul Mollis. He's been fantastic in helping me, maintain the airplane, instruct people, and then he's also really creative with all of his ideas. So building this ultralight airplane and that's kind of his idea.
So are you looking to build a plane that looks similar to the one you've got, or is it
No,
different?
the one we are building is actually your typical
Open air
concept one, yeah.
Okay. And how many people do you think will be getting up in that one?
Well, we're not planning on doing any flight training on the basic ultralight. We
Right.
do all our flight training just on the Cadillac, I call it, the Icarus.
Is that something that would only be one passenger, the one you're building?
The one
Like
we're
the
building
pilot?
is right now, the one we're building is a single seater.
Okay.
We are planning on building a second one that is 2 seats though.
Now you're talking about expanding here. Your current office is at the Kingston Airport, and you are looking to expand inside the grounds of the Kingston Airport to a bigger facility, correct?
Yep, we're moving pretty much just down the road to Hangar 4, which is a much larger office, reception area, classroom, and then there's a full shop as well that we can build our airplanes.
So it's the space that you need. Right now we're sitting in your office, which doubles as the instruction room, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking to expand, have more space. So what does the future look like for you and the business? Where are you taking this?
Well, ideally, in the next couple years, I'd like to get a second Icarus airplane and then have it on floats in the summertime and skis in the wintertime to do float training and ski training. Also have a second aircraft available when people are renting the airplane. We can still be doing flight instruction. And then maybe, I don't know how it's all going to go. It seems to be going pretty good now, but in the future, maybe a couple satellite offices, a location near Toronto. And see where it goes from there.
Building the business and just expanding,
Yeah.
but controlling how quickly you expand, so
Yeah.
you do it properly. Okay, tell us about the open house that's coming up. This show is going to be airing on the 23rd of October, which is a Monday morning, and then the following Saturday you are doing an open house, correct?
Yep. So we're going to do an open house at our new location. It's at 1060 Len Birchall Way. Just when you pull into the airport, it's straight ahead. We're going to be doing a barbecue, so we'll have some hot dogs and hamburgers going, and lots of discounts, so 25% off our ground school classes, and pretty much just an open house to show people our new, larger office, or check out our airplane if they want to. There's also going to be free flights.
The timing for the open house is from when to when?
It's going to be from 10 to 5.
Okay.
We're going to be doing the barbecue from 12 to 3 or so. But anybody's welcome to stop in between the 10 and 5.
And if they want more information about the open house or about the business in general, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, you can either go on our website, advancedultralights.com, or any of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at OAU Fly. On the website, you can find my personal contact information if you'd like to email or give me a call.
Okay. Zach, I want to thank you very much for your time and for the conversation this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Theme music for the program is Stasis Oasis, a tune written and performed by Kingston musician Tim Aylesworth. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about any of our episodes, please send a note to the Kingstonian Podcast Facebook page. This is Dave Cunningham from Kingston, Ontario. Thank you for listening. Until next time.